Welcome to the Explainer. We all use the average function in Excel, right? It's second nature. But have you ever stopped to think if that single number is really telling you the whole truth? Today, we're going to uncover the hidden stories in your data by looking way beyond that basic average.
So let's just start with that big question. Is that simple average you calculate actually giving you the real picture? Or could it maybe be a little bit misleading? Let's find out.
To really get to the truth, we need to go beyond the basic average function. You see, the word average can actually mean a few different things. We're going to look at the three most common ways to find the center of your data: the mean, the median, and the mode. Each one tells a slightly different story.
Okay, let's start with the mean. This is what Excel's average function calculates. It's pretty straightforward. It's like taking all your values, throwing them into a pot, and then dividing them up evenly. Now, compare that to the median. The median doesn't do any math, really. It just sorts all your numbers from smallest to largest and finds the one that's physically in the middle of the line.
And finally, you've got the mode. This one's the easiest to remember. It's just the number that shows up the most often. So if you have a list like 2, 3, 3, 5, and 7, the mode is 3. Why? Because it appears more than any other number. It's the most popular value in the group.
All right, now let's get practical and really focus on that tool we all use, the standard average function in Excel. Understanding exactly how it behaves, what it sees, and what it ignores is the key to using it right. At its heart, the function's job is super simple. It calculates the arithmetic mean. That's just a fancy way of saying it adds up all the numerical values you give it and then divides by the count of those numbers. But here's where it gets interesting. How does it decide what to include? Let's look at this table of student scores. I want you to pay close attention to student B. They were sick for their second test, so we just have the word sick in there. How do you think Excel is going to handle that?
It just ignores it. That's right, the function scans the range, sees the word sick, and just skips right over it. It does the same thing for empty cells. Then it just calculates the average using only the numbers it finds. So for student B, the average is simply 75 because that's the only number in the row.
But, and this is a big but, here is where you have to be careful. Let's compare student D and student E. Now, student E missed a test and got a 0. So the crucial question is, does Excel ignore that 0 like it ignored the word sick? Absolutely not. Unlike text or a blank cell, a 0 is a totally valid number. Excel sees it and includes it in the math. It adds 90 and 0 and then divides by 2. This is a critical difference. Look what happens. Student E's average plummets to 45, which tells a very, very different story than if we just left the cell empty. This whole 0 issue brings us to a really common problem in data. What do you do when one number is so wildly different from the rest that it just completely throws off the average? We call these things outliers. So let's see this in action. Imagine we're looking at a list of property sale prices. Most are in a pretty similar range, but one house, just one, sold for way more than all the others. Okay, here's our data. You can see most of the sale prices are kind of hovering in the teens and 20s, but then, bam, you see that one sale at 100? That's our outlier, and it's going to pull our standard average way up.
And here is the proof. If we use the standard average function, we get 23.8. Now look back at that list. Does 23.8 really feel like the typical sale price? Nah, not really. That one outlier has totally skewed the result, giving us a pretty misleading number. So, how do we fix this? This is the perfect time to bring in the median function. What it does is brilliant. First, it sorts all the numbers from smallest to largest, and then it just picks the number that's sitting right in the middle of the list. This makes it super resistant to those crazy high or low values. And just look at that difference. The median of our sales data is 19. Now that feels like a much more honest number for this data set, doesn't it? The median function basically ignored that extreme value of 100 and gave us a much truer sense of the center.
So far, we've been averaging all the numbers in a range. But what if you only want to average numbers that meet a certain rule? Well, for that, Excel gives us an incredibly powerful tool.
Meet the average if function. Think of it like a filter for your average. It lets you set a rule, a criteria, and then it will only calculate the average for the cells that pass your test. This gives you a whole new level of precision.
Take this simple list of fruit prices. What if we don't really care about the average price of all the fruit? What if we only want to know the average price of the apples? Average if is the perfect tool for exactly this job.
The function itself has three main parts. First, the range. This is just you telling Excel where to look for your condition. Second, the criteria. This is the rule itself, like the word apples. And third, this optional average_range. This tells Excel where the actual numbers to be averaged are, which is super useful when your rule and your numbers are in different columns.
So, let's recap our new Excel toolkit. You've got the standard average for a simple arithmetic mean. You have median, which is your go-to defense against data with those crazy outliers. And you've got average if, for when you need a really precise, conditional average based on a specific rule you set.
So, the next time you're about to type equals average, just pause for a second. Ask yourself this question. What story is my data really telling me? Look for those outliers. Think about if you need to apply any conditions and choose the right tool for the job. Because now you have what it takes to find out what your average is truly saying.